Hello everyone and welcome to another JoyClicks breakdown. My name's Christian Buckley. I'm joined by the Apex legend Jack Martin.
A very hearty Excelsior to you, Christian.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to get to all of that. We are the two hosts of the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast, and we figured what better way to improve our week than do a quick little breakdown. Thanks to Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix dropping a brand new patch. After a week of silence, we got a lot of changes already implemented into the game, and new content dropping this week. So honestly, why don't we just dive into what the patch fixes and improves? Because you and I both know the community and us as well have been very, very frustrated with this game over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, last episode in particular, we were pretty down on the game, but this has definitely fixed some of our specific issues with the game, which is excellent.
Specifically, this is just for the patch. It's not a full War Table blog. They've broken it down into a bunch of different bullet points. I'll read through them, and if there's one you want to stop me on, just throw a few things in there. So first up, remote faction terminals have been added to outposts, which allow collection of faction assignments and villain sector bounties without the need to visit each faction coordinator in person. So
I'm going to stop you right there. This is excellent, and I think this was one of your additions that you specifically mentioned within the past couple of episodes where you wanted to see this.
Yeah, I hopped into the recent Destiny expansion this past week, and I forgot how simple it was to just take care of your bounties and stuff like that from wherever you are. And this is one step closer to that, so this is a huge win for me.
Yeah, to clarify what this is, I was playing the game literally for like 5 minutes just to check out the patch, sort of details, and it's a terminal of the faction vendor you're not at that you can like pick up quests from them. So, for example, if I'm on the helicarrier, I can pick up my shield factions in person there, and I can also pick up my Inhuman faction sort of assignments via a terminal. And what's really funny about this, they're probably going to have to issue a patch for this, because you know how anytime you pick up the assignments, of course, there's the running gag of, seriously, you're the best.
Yes.
And the faction vendors say like a bunch of things responding to each thing you pick up. They do that over the terminal, and it's because you can't get distanced away from that in a way. It sticks with you like in your headset. So
Whoa.
it's much more prominent now.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I think that will probably be patched. But that's an interesting thing of like a patch introducing a new issue or making it an issue worse. It's funny. It's not that terrible, but
Yeah, it's back to seriously you're the best almost, you know?
yeah. Except you can't escape it.
Well, what won't be able to escape you now is those loot pickups, because we now have an extended pickup radius for reward drops, which is very key. In a loot game like this, like having to be right on top of a drop is a little frustrating, especially if you're dealing with drones and drones of aimbots. So the fact that you don't have to be right on top of an item now, they're extending that radius. That's just streamlining the experience. You're also going to be able to preview cosmetic vendor items. So the lady with the coffee addiction, you can go up to her, you can preview those outfits and those emotes and name cards, nameplates, like whatever you need. You can check it out now. You don't have to look at it through the cosmetic menus.
Yeah, that was like the sort of workaround. You would go to the vendor, check out what was there, and then go to your character menu or switch to a character to go to that menu to see what it actually looked like, which was kind of super annoying. But yeah, I think all the patches here are some great quality of life improvements, and that's an example of one of them.
Speaking of, this is another one that they promised early on. There's now an option to scale subtitles and closed caption text sizes, and closed captions are no longer on by default when you're playing the game and watching cinematics. There was a few instances of the campaign where there would be a spoiler in the closed captions. So like it would be like, oh, Kamala found the hard drive, and it's like, oh, okay, she didn't yet, but okay.
Yeah.
This one's big. Movement speed increased in outposts when in the Avengers initiative. So like you said, the helicarrier and anthill Both of those now allow you to sprint through them, so you don't have to just walk at a brisk pace.
That was my takeaway from the brief, few minutes I played just to check it out. It was like, oh my god, I can sprint now. And I found out that, I don't know if this was like this before, I didn't try, but I was sprinting in the helicarrier, and there's like a pretty significant distance from where you spawn and where the sort of like inventory vendor is, like on the lower floor. With Iron Man, at least, I tested this. You can sprint to the railing, and Iron Man will vault over the railing, so you don't have to walk down the staircase.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I with Thor, what I normally do is when I'm going to see Sydney, like, is that the vendor you're talking about, the bald guy?
Yeah, voiced by Octane's voice actor from Apex.
The Apex legend knows his facts.
There you go.
There's like a gap on the bridge where there's no railing, so I just walk around that way and just jump down. So that's how I usually get there. But
genius.
Speaking of genius, the AI companions are smarter now. There's going to be assistance when players need to be revived and just overall improvements to them. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that I think is huge. This was the issue that sort of triggered the 2 weeks of negativity around this game, the Mega Hive. The Mega Hive now has improved rewards. They are guaranteed to give 2 exclusive exotic gear items and an increased amount of upgrade modules upon completion. Now
I have a reason to actually do this again.
Absolutely. I was going to add in, infamously, if you listen to Excelsior, I tried the Mega Hive, I got to floor 39, or I got to the final floor, it glitched, I had to reset the final run of like 5 floors or whatever, and I died on 39. So I would have had it. I would have had a chance at my exotics, and I haven't barely touched the game since then. But now that this is in there, now that I know I'm going to get exotics out of it, I will batten down the hatches and run through this thing again. I will get it done.
Yeah, I mean, like you and I have said before, we were joking about this, but we were like, we're not quite convinced that exotic gear items even exist, because aside from like the major artifacts, I hadn't run into any, especially for like gear slots for like armor and stuff like that. But the fact that we're going to have guaranteed access to exotic gear items and that they're exclusive is super interesting, and it's gonna make actually playing through the Mega Hive worthwhile, because before it was kind of a gamble whether you'd actually get them, but now we're guaranteed that once you complete it, you'll get 2, which is great, I think.
I'm right there with you. That's an excellent addition to the game, and it makes up for lost time, I think, the fact that you get 2 out of it. And the last highlight they have pulled is for you Iron Man mains out there. They've implemented a fix that will retroactively grant Iron Man's iconic outfit for players who previously lost it due to a bug. And speaking of bugs, they go over a lot of other issues that are being patched in this. It's quite an extensive list of tweaking some combat challenges, making modifiers only for players now instead of enemies. Lots of stuff like that. But in scrolling through some of these, were there any other highlights that you saw that they didn't pull specifically that you think is worth commending?
To me, they seem sort of smaller and more specific.
The one I wanted to... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the highlights section of this of the patch notes is really where the meat and potatoes is.
Sure. The one I want to shout out that I'm surprised they didn't feature is they renamed Launch Mission to Ready Up. So, quote, to make it clearer about the button's function. So you and I and Kevin, when we've streamed the game a couple times, we've been in that loading screen, just like not like one of us hits the launch mission and then we don't realize that if we all hit it, then we don't have to wait a minute to launch the mission, so I'm glad that's in there as well.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it seems like there's a lot of quality of life improvements, which I think was very much needed. And there's also some like content additions as well. Like I would say the Mega Hive rewards isn't necessarily just quality of life. I think that like impacts the day-to-day gameplay of players. Like you and I will definitely run through a Mega Hive again because of that upgrade.
This patch is available now as of the time of recording this. We both have it installed on our PS4s. Xbox is live. Steam, it's going live, I believe, slightly later today. Looks like noon? No, 6 p.m. Eastern. Stadia TBD. But so 1.3.3 is available on the 14th. But what we get on the 15th, what unlocks tomorrow, if you're listening to this when we release it, is new content, specifically Shield Substation Zero outposts and Tachyon Rift missions. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the chance to play these yet, but we will be diving into our thoughts on both of these new pieces of content on this weekend's Excelsior that goes live on youtube.com/joyclicks right here and podcast services around the world Saturday during the day. But why don't we just run through quickly what these new content types are? Jack, you want to read off the Shield Substation Zero?
So the Shield Substation Zero outposts, I'm going to read directly from here. Shield has opened Substation Zero to investigate new temporal anomalies that have begun forming around the world. A space that offers new narrative, characters, and content. You can find Shield Substation Zero in the Pacific Northwest on the war table. Very
nice. I wonder if that's where we get Dum Dum Dugan, because he's been teased.
Yeah, we have seen like some teases and potential leaks as well from Dum Dum, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, I hope we get more information about Fury as well, because I feel like his like little sub story that we had going on is kind of dead right now.
Yeah, we haven't heard too much from him after the main game.
But what I think is more exciting is the Tachyon Rift missions. This says you'll investigate the temporal anomalies by taking on the new Tachyon Rift missions, which are the first place players can get cosmic gear. The Tachyon Storm will damage players over time, but charges heroic energy at an increased rate. With the Meridian modifier active, players can pass through the temporal anomalies to extend the time you can spend within a Tachyon Rift. A late game offering, Tachyon Rift missions require 140 power level or higher heroes to play. These missions are available once per day and rotate out daily. So, I think between both of those, we do get a nice booster shot. Obviously, we just are going off of the text descriptions of these missions, so we'll have to see how they play out. But after close to 100 hours of drop zones and mega hives and vaults, I'm excited to see some new content.
Yeah, I think the latter of the two, the Tachyon Rift missions, definitely seems the most out of the ordinary, so I think that'll be a nice addition. And the fact that it's like once per day reminds me of the villain sectors, so it's a nice thing where you can have the option to either do villain sectors or do Tachyon Rift missions, or do both if you want.
Yeah, being able to do both every day is going to be pretty nice, and honestly, having a daily thing that's content related, not just a challenge, will probably keep me coming back for a little while at least. Jack, do you have any final thoughts on today's patch before we sign off and get to play in for this weekend's Excelsior?
Yeah, I think it's a good step in the right direction. I think a lot of it's focused on the sort of quality and of life improvements that we've been sort of asking for, and some smaller content drops like the missions, as well as the improvements to the Mega Hive. So I think that's all great, and I'm just hoping that we get more content-specific drops sometime soon. It's good that we were talking about the sort of lack of communication, or maybe not the best communication that's happening around this game from the developers, but it seems like this is a good step in the right direction, and I'm hoping to hear from them about Kate and sort of any other content drops that are happening or should be happening soon.
Yeah, and going off of what we talked about last week on the episode, this week there supposedly is a new form of content update. I don't know if this is what they were referring to, or if tomorrow when we normally get the War Table blog, it's going to be something new and more in-depth. But yeah, I'm with you. This is great. I'm very excited to try out the new content. Very excited to hear about Kate, because she has to be the next thing they talk about, I'm assuming. And like I said, if you want impressions on this stuff, if you want to see how it's actually implemented into the game, we will be discussing it in depth of our experiences with it on this Saturday's Excelsior, which links for that should be in the description of this video. But that does it for breaking down patch 1.3.3. Jack, until this weekend, where can people find you?
Sure, you can follow me on social media at FascinatedJack. What about you, Christian?
You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Chris N. Buckley, as well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks, and Excelsior this Saturday. So, until then, Excelsior.
Excelsior.